Hey there, so today we have here is the Poco M3 Pro. This is the 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. So this is a phone that has 5G built into it at an affordable price. So this device comes in 3 different colors. It comes in a black, yellow, and blue. Now here I have the black version. So let's talk about this the specs. It uses a MediaTek Dimensity 700, which is how they got their 5G at an affordable price, with dual 5G SIM trays. It has a 5,000 milliamp hour 18-watt charger with 22 watts in the box. It has a full HD 1080p 6.5-inch 90Hz display with like IPS, and it has a 48 megapixel AI triple camera macro and depth lens, as you can see here. Now this is the black version. This one looks very, very sleek actually. I know this is plastic, and then this is thing. I actually like this one. And then in the box here we get a USB charger and then a case over here. Now this comes with the screen protector pre-applied, but what we're gonna do is let's take a look a bit around it. So on the bottom it has microphone, USB, and the speaker. Side has a shows 5G SIM and SD, or dual SIM. It has headphone jack, IR, and microphone, and second speaker. And then over here it has 3 cameras. It has a 48 megapixel, 2 megapixel macro, and 2 megapixel depth, and it looks like my Note 10 Pro a bit over there. And then it has a plastic back, which is nice. It's just a nice device. It's dual flash and like a laser sensor or something. It has an 8 megapixel front camera. Now the bands that it works with is for 5G, N1, N3, N7, N8, N20, N28, N38, N40, N41, N66, N77, N78. So it works with all the bands you need. And then 4G works with all the rest of them. It has side-mounted fingerprint sensor into the power button, which I actually like here. I think this is a great addition. So I'm going to set this up, and we'll get back to it when I have it all set up. Okay, so I got the unboxing out of the way, so here's the phone. If we look around the device, it is a little dirty, but it has 3 camera setup, logo, all the F's, regulatory labels. You have on the right side, you have a power and fingerprint, which is a little recessed. That's okay. I mean, it's nice. Have a volume up and down rocker. On the left side, you have a SIM tray with dual SIM or a SIM card and SD card, which both dual SIM are 5G. On the top, you have headphone jack. You have a IR blaster, which is like a dual IR blaster basically, and then you have yourself the microphone on. Then you have the microphone on top, and then on the bottom you have microphone, USB-C, and a speaker, mono speaker. On the back, let's do all of this. So on the back you have your camera, and on the front you have basically a full screen camera with full screen with everything here, so not bad. So if I open this up, you can see it is a dot display, if you want to call it that, at 120 Hertz or at 90 Hertz. So let's go on by talking about this phone some more. So the specifications are, it has a MediaTek Dimensity 700 to 7 nanometer chip. It's crap. It has an octa-core CPU up to 2.2 gigahertz. It has LPDDR4X RAM, 4 GB and 64 gigs of space, or 6 GB at 128 gigs of space with UFS 2.2. MIU at 12 for Poco based on Android 11. At the time of reviewing, this thing is actually running a global 12.8 with no updates available. So if I check, no updates at 12.8, as you can see. It has a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus LCD, so it is 1080p, at 90 hertz. It switches between 30, 50, 60, and 90. It has 2400 by 1080. It claims it has 400 nits. I'm not sure how to test that. Has a bunch of stuff. Has Gorilla Glass 3 front, so really bad, because that's really low anymore. Has power black, yellow, and cool blue as the colors. It has a 5000 mAh battery, an 18 watt fast charge, and 22.5 watt box charger in the box. So you get 18 watts of the fast charging through it. And the rear camera has a 48 megapixel main sensor. Then you have the 2 megapixel and then macro, and then a 2 megapixel depth sensor. And then the front camera is an 8 megapixel front camera. Now, if you want the bands, 5G bands are N1, N3, N7, N8, N20, N28, N38, N40, N41, N66, and 77, and N78, and then 4G, and 3G, and 2G are all the same as before. It has 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, 2.4 and 5G gigahertz Wi-Fi, multifunction NFC depending on your region, Bluetooth 5.1, an IR blaster, and FM radio with headphones. So let's talk about the good things and the bad things. So the good things: screen. It's quite vibrant. It runs at 1080p. But if I look over here, let me pull up a YouTube video here. So let me open up the YouTube app. I use YouTube Advanced for various reasons. But let's open up a YouTube video. Let me click 4K HDR. Here's 4K HDR Costa Rica. Now, it's also a mono speaker, so bear that in mind. I don't think the mono speaker sounds the best. So if I go here, advanced 1440p at 4K, and if I continue going through, let's do this 4K HDR jazz demo. Now, if I go auto, as you can see, 1440p is the highest resolution it will run. So there's no more, so let's zoom in and you can see that. It shows 1440p is the highest resolution. No HDR. So if I go 1440p, still vibrant though. Now I want to mention something. This is running 1440p 60 Hz as it shows over here. And if I turn up the volume, you can see at some parts of the video it may start glitching, and that's something really bothers me. I have a 730G in the Note 10 Pro. I have yet to have an issue with something like this glitching out on me like anytime. I'm watching normal YouTube videos, and any random point in time I have to pause it, wait a second, like this is freezing. You can see it froze a little bit. Sometimes you actually have to go ahead, pause the video, and then go ahead and start it again after about a minute. Now, it has loaded lots of the video, but this even happens at 1080p. This is something that's making this phone, for me, I watch a lot of YouTube, but this is not something I want to see. Sometimes you have to go like this, and then you have to pause it, and then you can play it, and then it'll freeze again like it did before. It's not doing it now, but it'll do this every once in a bit, and it continues doing it. Speaker on this thing is whatever. The other thing I like about this phone is the fingerprint sensor. Quite fast. Battery life, amazing. I can get close to 6.5 hours, 7 hours on 90 hertz. And it also has fast enough charging for me. Like, I like the 33 watts that all the other Poco phones came with, except for the M3, which is also 18 watts. Like, I like all that, but I can deal with 18 watts. Not the end of the world. It's good though. It's fast and fluid if I go through it. As you can see, everything, it's like the UI itself, fast, fluid, as you can see. Everything looks nice. And if I go into the settings and I go down to display, I'm running at a fresh rate of 90. I'm also running the color scheme as saturated, so I can swipe everything away. It feels fast and fluid. I can go through. Now, I had an issue earlier today where I went onto my Waze to check out an address, and it claimed that I had an issue of it not having good enough internet. Now, I was running at H+. It was running at something that if it was running on another phone, I would have not had this issue. It's the first phone I've seen that issue on. Really, there isn't much to say good about this phone in my opinion. The screen looks fine. I mean, you have to have a good screen on a phone to want to use it. The battery life and charging is fine. Front camera, no. Rear cameras, no. Now this uses almost the same sensor, if I'm not mistaken, the same sensor as the Poco M3, the non-Pro variant. And this one has bad processing. I took a picture, the first picture I took with the stock camera. Usually I'm just like, oh, that's okay, maybe Gcam can improve it. This one, I loaded it up, and it was no. It was blown out in the highlights. The sky wasn't even blue. It was whiter than blue, like really light, and it didn't look natural. Now I loaded up my Poco or Poco X3 Pro, and that thing was actually decent. It had the correct highlighting, it had the correct details on the shadows, and everything was good. And then I took another picture where it was a little darker, and I'm like, maybe because of the sun? Still the same thing. The details in the shadows were gone. There was nothing there. So I had to actually go and not use it. So I didn't even take a lot of camera photos because when I did, I was just disappointed. I took some because I share stuff through my phone sometimes, but that was it. Now it has an interesting design back. I'm not the end of the world about this design, although it would have been cool if I was able to get the design from the M3 onto the M3 Pro, but I mean, they want to make it look more premium. They wanted to do that. Please just make this a small thing in the bottom. We don't need to see it. And then this Poco, designed by Poco. Make it a small thing too. We don't need to see it. Like, please. Otherwise, it's an okay design. Plastic frame, plastic body. Gorilla Glass 3 screen is very mediocre. And that's it. There's not much to talk about here. I think if you're looking for a phone, my problem is this is a phone that costs about, if I actually look through all of what Poco actually sent me, nothing like, I understand, yes, but basically, if I look at this phone right here, and I go through with the pricing, the Poco F3 will be available for, or the Poco M3 Pro, the Poco M3 Pro is a weird priced phone. You can get the Poco M3 for about $150, give or take the sale, or $170 for the one with the 6 gigs of RAM and 120 gigs of space. The one with the 6 gigs of RAM and the 28 gigs of space. So if I look up Poco M3 on the Poco M3 on AliExpress, you can see it's $139.74 on sale. So if I click this, it's for 4 gig 128 or 4 gig 128 black, it's $157.94. So you see that? It's actually cheap. It's $157.94. And then if I go to M3 Pro 5G, Poco M3 Pro 5G over here, it's $180 for a it is $120 for 4 gigs 64, and then it is $200 for 6 and 128. So you're paying $30 more for the same specifications, or the same RAM and storage as you are on the Poco M3. But the Poco M3, which uses the same camera module, has the same charging. I don't care about the 90 Hertz, not the end of the world. It has a 5000 mAh battery, and it has the same cameras. You're getting a better camera experience that actually processes correctly, and I gave the Poco M3 a good review. This is the first phone I've gotten from Xiaomi where I was like, just buy their cheaper variant. If you're buying this phone, you're buying this specifically for the 5G. There is nothing else you are buying this for other than the 5G. Now, my issue is, why will you buy this cheap of a phone just for 5G? If you're buying a cheap phone, you can get a Poco M3, and you can get something that'll last a lot longer. My sister was using a Redmi Note 5 Pro or a Redmi 5 Plus, I think one of those two. It was running one of those Snapdragon 600 series processors from 3 years ago or something like that at this point. She was using it. It was perfect for her. I swapped her to the Poco M3 because just get a new phone. And you know what? She's loving it. It's great. She says the front camera's not the best, but it's excusable at that price range right now. Like, it could be better, but it's excusable. It's still usable. But this one specifically, this is something I wouldn't have even replaced that Redmi 5 Plus. I think that was what it was. It was the Note 5. It was the Redmi 5 Plus. I wouldn't have even replaced the 5 Plus with this phone. That other phone had a crack in like the corner of the screen from when she dropped it once. And you know what? I would have let her live with it, because this is something I would not recommend to a friend. Now, Xiaomi sent this phone out to me for review. No, they do not get to see this before you see it. But as you can tell, I'm not giving this a positive review. The only reason why is because if they were to put a Snapdragon 700 series processor with the 5G, if they drive up the price to $200, I would have been fine with it. I wouldn't have cared. If it was $200 for the base price, I would have given it an okay review. It wouldn't have been the most positive because of the price, but it actually would have been fine. Like, I would have been fine reviewing that phone and giving it a decent review, but it just doesn't have the right processor for that. This one does not have the right processor. If it was a 700 series with 5G, okay, give me the 5G. But the fact that they use Dimensity 700, where it even claims on the website for the Dimensity, I was looking through the Dimensity website for it, the MediaTek Dimensity 700. They said, oh, it's meant to work up with a 64 megapixel camera. Yeah, still be fine. You know what? It wasn't, though. It was one of those ones that I would not recommend to a friend. Like, if you wanted just 5G, like my sister, she takes photos for one of my family members takes photos for herself. She does beauty care. So she takes photos of her friend's nails and posts it on her Instagram for advertising for herself. She has a Note 8, the Samsung Note 8. She needs a new phone because she wants 5G. Will I give this one to her? No, because that's how bad it is. Like, if it was a 700 series, I'd be like, fine. If you want the 5G, this could be a good replacement. But I'm sorry, the MediaTek Dimensity 700 actually hurt this phone, in my opinion. I know there's also the Redmi Note 10 5G that uses a MediaTek 700 processor. I think that phone is also killed because of it. It doesn't take good photos. It uses the same sensor as the Note 10, which has I think it's a 730G processor. That one's a lot better. Just please, Poco. I understand you were trying to save money here, but you gotta realize that you're making a phone that you want people to use. You want people to use this phone. You want people to give it a good review. I'm sorry. This is actually something that I wouldn't spend my money on if I had to. You can buy for about $300. You can buy the Poco X3 Pro with a Snapdragon 860, and it has UFS 3.1, 6 gigs of RAM, up to I think it was 256 gigs of storage, or you can get the Note 10 Pro, which is actually cheaper. You don't have to get 5G in a phone. Let's just look here. $279 base price. I would rather spend that much more money, get myself a much better screen. Not a much better screen per se, but I'd rather spend the more money, or even a little less, get myself the M3. I don't need, like, I understand 5G this, 5G that. Who cares right now? When you're going to get a phone that's not going to work, I don't even think this phone will last more than a year. I don't see that happening. If you wanted a phone that you could also get rid of MIUI if you cared about custom ROMs, I don't even see custom ROMs being a real thing on this phone. There's no like official support. There's only official support from Xiaomi or Poco, but there's no like official support from the ROM community and other stuff. So you're stuck with whatever's on here, and it's just not a good experience for me. I'm actually not a fan of this phone. This is the one phone that I have tested that I was dreading using. I was unhappy and unsatisfied. If I was an actual customer and I had to spend 2 weeks with this phone, I would say, here, take this phone back. I want to return it. I would say, take it back, return it, and get it out of here. That's my official review. My official review is negative about this phone. The screen's fine, the battery's fine, and the 5G is okay. Other than that, there really isn't much good to say about the phone. The Poco M3, dual speakers. One on top, one on bottom. Do they really have to cut that? No. I don't think they had to. If you did like this video though, please rate, comment, subscribe, put a thumbs up, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.